Retired trumpeter Emerson Head was an exceptional classical performer, among the elite players that you've probably never heard of. If you Google him, you will discover that he worked as an orchestra player, as a soloist, as a recording artist, and as a teacher for decades. He was born in 1935 in Wilmington, North Carolina, and started performing on the trumpet as a teenager circa 1948. He performed professionally from the 1950s into the early 2000s. In 1971, Emerson lived in the rural exurbs of Washington, D.C., and had a thriving career as a trumpet professor at the University of Maryland, and as a soloist, orchestra player, and conductor. One of the professional highlights of that season was playing in the premiere performance and studio recording of Leonard Bernstein's Mass. Now, Leonard Bernstein, who's having another 15 minutes in the sun thanks to the hit movie Maestro, was arguably the preeminent American conductor and music educator of the 20th century. He had been commissioned by Jacqueline Kennedy herself to compose a major new work, and the result was Mass, a theater piece for singers, players, and dancers. The premiere performances were conducted by Bernstein associate Maurice Perez and choreographed by dance icon Alvin Ailey. The premiere was a centerpiece of the opening festivities of the brand new Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. Bernstein's Mass was the very first public performance in the Kennedy Center, with the preview taking place in the Opera House on September 5, 1971. It re-premiered on the official opening day 3 days later on September 8th. Now, Emerson Head was hired as a freelancer to play first trumpet for that run of performances and for the original recording in a New York studio. So what was it like working with the maestro himself, Leonard Bernstein, in his domain of orchestral music composition, performance, and recording? The detail and the nuance of these past events fade quite rapidly. So we're going to try to shine a light into the life of a 20th century classical musician who was, in that season, in Bernstein's domain. The following conversation with Emerson Head, now 88 years old, was recorded on May 2nd, 2023, at the family dinner table in Maryland.
And this guy was a student of his, conducting student.
Okay.
And but he conducted all the rehearsals and the performances. The student.
Mm-hmm.
Lenny was there to take the bows, all 17 of them,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then.
Do you remember who that conductor was?
Yes, but I can't come up with it instantly. But I was going to follow that with the information that Lenny conducted the recording.
And you did that in New York?
And did that at Columbia Studios in New York, yeah.
Uh-huh.
We would go along, and I remember at one point he said, no wonder it never sounded right. I meant to have trombones there, you know, or whatever. Actually, there's no trombones in the Third Symphony, is there?
In Beethoven's?
I think there was on that other tape we saw. There's none in the First Symphony, and I don't recall the Second Symphony. And but there could be in the Third.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we rehearsed in a rehearsal room in the Kennedy Center.
Okay.
And of course performed downstairs.
In the main hall.
In the concert hall.
Yeah.
What do they call the other? This concert hall
There's an opera house. There's a dance
The
hall of
opera
some
house.
kind. There's
Yeah, I think
and then there's a terrace theater. You mentioned you performed in the
that's the
Baroque.
one. It's more of a recital hall
Yeah.
type size, although it's twice as big as the one at Taw's. Yeah, that was kind of a strange thing that he didn't conduct the performance and did do the recording.
Was he still modifying it when you were rehearsing it the first time?
He didn't rehearse it the first time.
But he was there.
He was sitting there all 100 hours. 100 hours of rehearsal.
Okay. So that stuck in your mind because that's way more rehearsal than you usually get, right?
Oh, yeah. But there was two things going on. One, premiere of the tune, and the other thing was that it they were trying all kinds of things out. That's why it was actually the Wolf Trap Orchestra playing when we were testing the acoustics and the sound equipment, and they had the architects come in for that time through and to see if they got the results, and they made decisions about which windows, how many windows to pull the drapes closed and that sort of thing.
Really? In the new Kennedy Center space?
In the concert hall, yeah.
So if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, this was the premiere of Bernstein's Mass, but also the first concert of the Kennedy Center Concert Hall.
Yeah. There was the concert hall and what would we call the other one?
The Opera House?
The Opera House, that's right.
How did you get that gig?
Just being the father of Robert Emerson.
No, that wasn't it, because you weren't my father yet. I was still in utero. I guess you were my father, but I was in utero at that moment. Just a local contractor, the same guys that put together every freelance gig?
No, it was...
You said it was the Wolf Trap Orchestra?
The name, the orchestra was the World Symphony Orchestra.
Okay.
That Fiedler and the National Symphony, actually, personnel manager, he was a tuba player, and he called me, but I understood when he called me that they had in the original planning about who the personnel would be, they had thought that they would have one of the trumpets from the trumpet section of the National Symphony. And so when they presented that to the player and to the conductor, they said, no, I can't, I don't want to have a sub for that concert. You know, I want my player in my orchestra.
Oh, I see. So the National Symphony had a competing concert at the same time frame. The National Symphony did.
Whether it was a competing, well, see, there was, I said 17 performances. Somewhere in the 17 performances, the Nashville Symphony had probably 3 concerts
Yeah.
or 2
Right.
on a weekend, and he, for whatever reasons he had, the music he was playing, or
He wanted his first trumpet in the National Symphony in his shows.
to play, right?
Okay. So they called the freelance guy, Emerson Head, trumpet player extraordinaire. Emerson continued with recollections of the inaugural dedication performance of the original pipe organ in the Kennedy Center Concert Hall in 1972. Hope you enjoyed that little peek into Dr. Head's performing life.